Hungary is a country of comfortable temperatures, with the warmest temperature averaging at 26°C during July and August, and the coldest averaging at 4°C during January. Their seasons are very variable, with the winters being cold, cloudy, damp or windy, and the summers being warm, sometimes very hot. Their sunlight is somewhat rare, and it averages between 19 and 2,500 hours a year, which is about 3.5 to 4.6 hours a day. They also have some snow, but not much, as it only happens for around 40 days in the lower regions, although it goes up to around 120 in the mountainous region.
Hungary's main resource is bauxite, which is a type of ore which is then refined into aluminium. They have one of Europe's most richest sources of it. They also have some minor deposits of other resources, such as hard coal and brown coal. Coal used to provide for half of Hungary's energy requirement.
As Hungary is not connected to an ocean, water is a problem for them. They strongly depend on river outflow from other countries, and as a result of that, 95% of their surface waters did not originate from Hungary. Another reason why water management is hard for them is due to the low density of their river system. Here are some statistics of their water use. The total amount of water abstraction in Hungary is about 6,000 million cubic meters per year, 75% of which is used up in cooling industrial equipment and other things. The public uses 40% of the remaining water, while industry uses a little more than 25% and agriculture uses 35% of the remaining, with 15% for irrigation, 5% for fish ponds, and 15% more for animal breeding. The railroad is the most frequently used type of transportation in Hungary. The construction of railroads started before World War I, which was improved on later in modern times. The transportation in Hungary now has their own convenient highways and roads, but some places are harder to get to, because the landscape is too complicated for roads to be built on. They have an airport in Budapest that was opened in 1986 and later expanded in 1999. Most of Hungary is powered with thermal energy, but they also have some nuclear power plants, which lets every settlement in Hungary have electricity. The Hungarian type of government is parliamentary democracy. 18 is the legal age for voting, although if you are married you can vote at 16. The president is elected by National Assembly, and the prime minister is elected based on the recommendation of the president. During the 1980s, when the Soviet Union collapsed, Hungary underwent major changes. Hungary had been a communist country for about 50 years, and the 1990s introduced modernization, like democracy and liberty. Hungary proposed some new constitutions in 1989, a few basic laws and procedures that stabilized Hungary's government. They made promises about the people's freedom of speech and allowed them to have the authority to participate in elections and propose objections. Hungary's industry is largely composed of tertiary businesses. They are poor when it comes to natural resources essential for heavy industry. They rely strongly on imported materials. In Hungary, industries only partially developed before WW2, but started expanding really quickly since 1948. Because the industry matured too quickly, the country was nationalized in 1949, and the socialized sector accounted for about 98% of growth production in 1985. Hungary has started to concentrate on developing items such as steel machinery, buses, diesel engines, locomotives, television sets, radios, electric light bulbs, fluorescent lamps, telecommunications equipment, refrigerators, washing machines, medical apparatus, precision engineering equipment, pharmaceuticals, and petrochemical products. Because these industries are now more important than textile and leather production, these industries started to increase in value since the end of WW2 and since 1970. Chemicals have grown to become the leading industry. One of the more recent businesses there involve hot or cold springs, as there are some places in Hungary that emits enriching waters. These springs have started many businesses, whether for the springs themselves or just souvenirs and trinkets. Hungary doesn't export too much of its primary resources, which is good, otherwise Hungary would be vulnerable to the recession of the rest of the world. For example, in 2008, US GDP went down 2%, but oil exporting countries such as UAE went down 10 to 15%. 25% of all exports of Hungary were of high technology, which is the fifth largest ratio in the European Union after Malta, Cyprus, Ireland, and the Netherlands. The U10 average was 17.1% and the Eurozone average was 16%. This makes Hungary's exports quite desirable as their ratio is higher than average. Free trade could help Hungary a lot because Hungary is a relatively small country. Its main export and import partners are mainly within the European Union, such as Germany, Netherlands, etc. Based on the influence of European Union, current trade agreements are suitable for Hungary. However, further trade agreements might open up new markets for Hungary. Hungary has benefited from the European Union a lot. One of Hungary's problems is its debt. During the 2008 economic crisis, Hungarian authorities requested funds from the European Union and the International Monetary Fund. Both sides reached an agreement which allowed a 15.7 billion loan to Hungary from IMF. Hungary is still unable to repay the loan fully. Besides the loan, the Hungarian government has a public debt which is equal to 79.8% of its GDP. Hungary has accepted international help from places like IMF, who provided loans, the European Union, who decides policies for entire Europe as a whole. They abolished tariff within the European Union decades ago, which provided great opportunities for small countries like Hungary to compete with hypernations. And NATO gaining membership for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization ensured military security for Hungary.